connection to the power that gives you your essence. And if that is blasphemy, then to deny who we are based upon what the scripture says is in itself blasphemous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, how do we understand this whole concept of Elohim predicated upon the Adam thing, right? First of all, let's erase from our minds the idea of Adam being a man. Can we do that? If we can begin from that premise and begin to put in our minds, whenever we make the statement man, we are not talking about this physical entity. We are talking about Adam. The other part of that we need to understand before I really get into this is that there are different words translated in the Old Testament as man, and only one of those words is Adam. And to be honest with you, the word that's translated as Adam, as man from Adam, is the one before the separation of perceived separation of male and female. So when Jesus says, when Paul writes that the Christ was the second Adam, think about it. If he says he was the second Adam, or the most superior Adam, right? Then you have to ask yourself, who was the first Adam, or the inferior Adam? Who was that? And in answering that, you look at the Adam and you see male, female was Adam. So it is saying that Jesus or the Christ became male, female. Does it not? A superior male, female. Not male and female in terms of separation, but male, female in terms of the oneness. So how did that happen? In order for that to be real, we have to come to the understanding that male and female has very little to do with sexual organs when we're speaking of it from the spiritual perspective. Can we agree to that? It's talking about images. Okay. So having laid that premise, let's look at the origin of what is, and in order to get some kind of some sense of understanding, I'm going to have to use terms that we are most familiar with. So when we talk about the idea of Ein Sof, right? We're talking about light, or supreme light, the supreme light, or the totality of all enlightenment. So when we make reference to Yahweh or Jehovah, they are interchangeable. Yahweh and Jehovah are. And the words that's translated in the Old or New Testament as Lord is actually Yahweh or Jehovah. So Yahweh or Jehovah is different than Ein Sof. But Yahweh is the progenitor of Elohim. So how did Yahweh get his essence? Yahweh, Yahweh is the essence, the portion of Ein Sof that he chose to reveal. Can you see that? In other words, it is the portion of enlightenment that Ein Sof chose to reveal. Because the supreme light, or the enlightenment of all enlightenment, is much greater than what we're able to perceive. Are you with me so far? So, the essence of Yahweh finds its life in Ein Sof. And out of Yahweh came what we call the Hebrew alphabet, the letters, which is actually out of Yahweh came the energy of creation. Okay? And the first sense, the first aspect of the energy of creation is Aleph, which is considered the first Hebrew letter, but also the first number in the Hebrew. Now, what happens is that Aleph possesses the essence of Yahweh. And what is projected by Bet, which is the second letter, is the essence of Yahweh comes out of the womb of Bet, which becomes Elohim. But it says, Bereshit bara Elohim, began and created Elohim. Okay? So out of the womb of beginning, which is Bet, came Elohim. That is one of the reasons that the genesis of everything that is begins with the letter Bet as opposed to the letter Aleph. Because the essence of Aleph is projected through the womb of beginning. Are you following me? Now, out of the womb of beginning comes everything that is. So, one of the things that is, that exits this womb is Elohim, which is Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Mem. I'm not trying to do it so they can see it. Okay, just giving an understanding of how it's spelled. So Aleph is the first letter in Elohim. So in the Hebrew, the way a word is written, if the Aleph is at the end of the word, it means that the energy of all of the preceding letters suppresses the Aleph or suppresses the divine energy. If the divine energy, which is Aleph, is at the beginning of the word, then it means that the divine energy of Aleph influences all of the energies that follows. That's how lettergrammetry is understood. Okay? Now, the reason it is Elohim that comes out of the womb of Bet is because of the projection of the energy of Aleph. Am I making sense?
Yes. For me, it's like there's two olives then?
No. No. There are two Vermeils.
No.
Are there two Derricks?
No.
But out of Derrick comes into the womb of Vermeil, Aisha. Right?
Yes.
So Aisha is an offspring of you and Derrick.
Right.
But that does not make two Derricks or two Vermeils.
What is the difference between the two olives that you've...
It's the energy. See, we're not talking about names. We're not talking about people. We're not talking about letters. We are actually talking about energy. These things that we call letters are simply representative of types of energy. This is the essence of divine, the expression of divine energy.
Okay. I can grasp, I think, the energy concept and not think of it as people, but I get lost when I see where you had Aleph underneath Elohim.
Yeah. I'm just spelling the name Elohim in the Hebrew, that's all.
Oh, okay.
That's how it's spelled in the Hebrew.
All right.
I'm just spelling it.
All right.
And the reason I'm spelling it is to show you that from the womb of Bet came the entity Elohim. And because it begins with Aleph, it means that Aleph influences everything that follows it.
That's right.
Everything. So this is the projection of it all. It means that the divine energy, the divine essence, influences everything that's created. Everything. Because the first thing that comes out of the womb of that, of the beginning, is what? What is the first thing that comes out? That is not rhetorical.
Second.
What's the first thing that comes out of the womb of beginning?
Elohim.
Elohim is the first thing that comes out of the womb of beginning. Which means that it influences everything else that follows. Does that make sense? So you have flowing through everything that is the essence of Elohim. That is one of the reasons, according to that blue book, Sourcefield's investigation, yeah. According to...
Except for your Sarah. It's blue.
Yeah. You're right. I didn't say powder book. According to Sourcefield investigation, it has been proven scientifically that plants have life even after they are so-called cooked. Everything has life. You cannot destroy the energy. You cannot destroy the life. So, I bring that up to say to you, that's what I mean when I say that the divine essence influences or flows through everything that exists. Everything. So, what happens after we see the concept of Bereshit bara Elohim? And then it says, and Elohim bara Shemayim, yeah, the heavens. It says Elohim created the heavens and the earth. So out of Elohim came the heavens and the earth. So out of Elohim came the heavens, H-E-A-V-E-N, okay, James. Heavens and the earth, right? Now, this is talking about from Elohim came the consciousness of enlightenment and the consciousness of earth consciousness, meaning a natural consciousness, a consciousness that's connected to everything that's natural in terms of the physical. Okay? Now, this is what we got to learn to wrap our mind around. This is not a sequential event. All of this took place at one time. It's much like the Big Bang Theory, where everything is at once sprung into existence. Why is it that the light of all lights would have to take time to create all this stuff when there is no time at this point? It's difficult for us to understand or to wrap our mind around the concept of there not being time or space. That's very difficult. But all of this took place before the whole concept of space or time came into being. So all of it took place at once. Even though we have to explain it sequentially, it didn't happen that way. And the reason we have to explain it sequentially is because we have allowed ourselves to become victims of time. So we are stuck in this concept of time. So Elohim creates the heavens and the earth, right? This is the consciousness that's created. And it goes through all of the other things. And then it says that Elohim created, said, let there be light, which actually says in the actual language of it, you can translate it two different ways, or several different ways actually. One is that light was, is, and ever shall be. When it said let there be light. Or you can translate it very easily, and I went through these words, and the actual best translation of it is this. Elohim could see because the light was good. That's the actual translation of it.
Elohim could see because the light was
Yeah,
good.
Elohim saw because the light was good. It doesn't say Elohim saw that the light, and he saw that the light was good. That's not what it says.
Not see, but see.
See, yeah, not see with eyes, no, but perceive. Yeah, his perception was clear because the light was clear. Got it? That's why he could see. It's like Elohim's perception became clearer because the light became clearer to him. Now, it is no different than when we are sitting someplace and someone is talking about something and you have a light bulb moment. Everything becomes clear to you. Like, oh, I see now. It doesn't mean you see with these eyes. It means you see with this eye. You perceive what?
It's kind of hard to see that
I know.
Elohim seeing and it's not clear.
You know why?
You know what I'm saying? 'Cause
Yeah, I understand quite what you're saying. The reason is because of the concept we have been given of Elohim. In order for us to be in the image and likeness of Elohim, there have to be some traits that we possess too. That's reflective of the traits that he possessed. Jesus. For we have not a, what? That perpetuator who has not endured the temptations or been faced with the temptations that we've been faced with.
This is some super being who is just a super being and
you.
always, and therefore humans, or as he's been told us, we cannot connect to.
Right. And I'm going to come back to that in a second, Jim.
Well, isn't it also mixed with the idea that from the vantage point that we're processing, we're thinking to realize, to have understanding, we're within this bubble of duality.
Yes.
So we think the opposite of good is bad. We think the opposite of clear is cloudy. When in reality, the opposite of good could be vacuum, not bad, absence. It's sort of like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we put a value to it
Right.
and create that barrier, if you like. So
And
that put there, that review, then the question has to come, well, then what wasn't clear?
no,
that's what's here. The thing that's here is a precursor for us being created with unclear understanding. That's the precursor.
I just can't see anything else but something good come from
I
Elohim.
know that. I know that.
Okay.
I know that. And I'm saying to you, everything that came from Elohim is good.
Okay.
But it's not good in the sense that we define good.
Yeah.
It's not good as opposed to bad.
Right.
It's good as opposed to right or clear. Now, just because it's not clear to you does not mean it's not clear to me. So to me, it's right. To you, it may be unright right now.
Got you.
You see it?
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
difference there.
so the other part of it that we have to see is this. If Elohim is a precursor to the atom being created, then all the attributes of the Elohim has to be reflected in the atom as well.
Correct.
So there is something being done here to help us to understand the atom when we get to that point. You cannot understand the atom without understanding the Elohim. You cannot understand the Elohim without understanding the origin of the Elohim. And you cannot understand the Yahweh or the Jehovah without understanding the origin of the Yahweh, the Jehovah, which is the supreme light, Ein Sof. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Isn't it so also that each emanation from Ein Sof sort of casts a shadow?
Yes, that's exactly right. And the shadow, and then actually, Andre, on the heels of that, listen to what she said. Each emanation casts a shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it talks about us being created, when Adam being created in the image of Elohim, it says it's the shadow of Elohim. So the emanation of the Adam from the Elohim casts a shadow as well. And the shadow that's cast, keep in mind that everything that's physical is a representation of something that's spiritual, even your shadow. Your shadow is cast because your body stands between you and the light. What does that mean? It is a manifestation of the reality that there is something between us and the light. It is not a physical something that's between us. It is a perceived something that's between us and the light. That's what casts the shadow. And but the shadow is never detached from the object that's cast in the shadow. Your shadow is always connected to you. Think about it. You will not see my shadow walking over there and say, hey, what's up to your shadow? Without me walking over there. So when we talk about that the Adam is a shadow of the Elohim, that means that the Adam is always attached. Always connected. Are you there?
Yes.
Now, in order for a shadow to be cast, there is still light. Because in the absence of light, there is no shadow. You cannot see a shadow.
That's true.
Now, let me get back to the heaven and earth thing, okay? Now, Elohim creates the enlightenment and the earth of the consciousness of the awareness of light and the awareness of what we call darkness, or the awareness of earth consciousness. Why is this necessary? You're going to see in a moment. When that happens, after that happens rather, the next thing I told you about is that he said that, the scripture said there be light and there was light, and he said the light was good. This is the end of the first day, right? Mm-hmm. What he's saying is that Elohim saw because the light was good. Now, when it talks about ending the first day, it's talking about not the first day in terms of the days we're talking about, but it's talking about the infusion of the olive into the heaven and the earth that was created. Because keep in mind, the first day, one. It's the number one, right? Day one. Mm-hmm. One is also olive. The letter. Mm-hmm. So that's whenever you see olive, what do you see? The projected energy, right? Mm-hmm. So olive coming at the end means that there is the opportunity for the divine essence to be suppressed in the awareness of enlightenment and the earth awareness, or the earth consciousness. Am I making sense? Yeah. Mm-hmm. The consciousness, the natural consciousness. There is the opportunity for it to be suppressed. When we start talking about opportunities for suppression, we are also talking about free will.
So, do you know how earth is spelled?
Olive, so olive, that's E-Z,
okay.
E-T-Z-R-E, I believe, something like that. But it begins with olive. So olive is projected into earth consciousness. Got it? Okay. And if olive was not projected into earth consciousness, there would be no divine essence in our consciousness. Now, after he sees because of the light, what comes on the second day? It says that and he separated the light from the darkness. That's the second day. Now, if the light was good on the first day, in terms of what we call good, right? Mm-hmm. Why would he have to separate the light from the darkness on the second day? Because it was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The reason is because it has nothing to do with the overarching enlightenment that was the first day. But it does have everything to do with the difference between heaven and earth in terms of consciousness. Right? Light and darkness. Rightness, unrightness. Both of these ideas of understanding was released into the earth. And the idea of understanding from enlightenment brings you to a place where you realize your oneness with Elohim. And unrightness of the consciousness about the earth, which is darkness, right? Mm-hmm. Brings you to a place of developing your own understanding of your relationship with Elohim. And that has resulted in our struggle to realize who we are, or to accept who we are, regardless of what the scripture says.
That's why there's 7 heavens. That's why, is that where we get the term 7 heaven? Because of the 7 consciousness?
No,
or is
yes,
it more
yes,
to it? I know it's more to it
lot
than that, but...
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
See, is this the manifestation of free will?
Yes. It's beginning to manifest this early. Am I making sense? What's the matter? Oh, okay. Carol. Oh, give me some more.
I guess I want to see why, I want to know why it is, since you said in the beginning that all this stuff was created on one day, at one time, you know.
Yeah, one and a trickle of an eye.
Yes. So why is it that we have to have that separation of days and days
Okay.
and days?
Because,
why is it written like that, you know?
and I'll show you why
Yeah.
when we get to the Adam thing, okay? I'll show you why. It's simply because we developed it.
Oh, okay. It wasn't,
It was not so in the beginning.
right.
So man's not, we're not at man here.
But we never at man. We're not even at man as we know man when we get to Adam. Okay? And you'll see that. Now, all these other things, you got the herbs, the fields, the trees, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got that before you get the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
So, how is it that these things are nourished by the sun, and the sun is not even there yet?
Wasn't always there.
It's because they have a metaphorical meaning. And I'm not going into the metaphorical meaning of all of it, because it will be here for days, and I still won't be where I'm trying to get to. Okay? It is said that those who interpret the scriptures or read the scriptures literally is literally a fool. Because there is no way in the world that it really makes sense if you read it literally. It just doesn't make sense. Why does a God have to rest? So you can't do it literally. Okay?
It's just a shame there's not that one little piece of scripture in the scripture.
Yeah.
If you read this way, you're a fool.
Yeah.
Why would that say on top?
Now, we come on down to 1 and 26, or 27, when it talks about the creation of the man, the male and female. He created them male and female, right? This is where the Adam is created. But then we go to, this is the first chapter is the outline to everything that's coming in that second chapter. What I mean by that is this. Everything is outlined in outline form. But when you get into the second chapter, it becomes more detailed. In the second chapter, it talks about the Lord God taking the dust of the earth and forming man, does it not?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Why is it that now it is the Lord God as opposed to Elohim? Why is it Yahweh Elohim?
It's because the role is different?
It's because both of them are doing it. These are the entity out of which the energy of creation came, right, is Yahweh.
So is it the divine parent that's doing it?
Yes. It's Yahweh,
Meaning,
the Father.
okay.
And now it is the divine, the parental energy and the energy of Elohim, the energy of creation that's forming Adam. Got it?
Yeah.
What happened in that first chapter, it says that male, female was created in his image, in his shadow. When it gets to the second chapter, it talks about how it was created. It does not talk about dust. It does not talk about how it was formed in that first chapter. It doesn't talk about that, does it? It just mentions it. But in the second chapter, it goes into more detail at 2 and 7. When it begins to detail it, then it is at that point that it talks about the Adam, does it not? Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what does it talk about? It talks about Aleph, Dalet, Aleph, Mem, Adam. Aleph at the beginning does what? The essence of the divine essence influences everything that comes after. Got it? So Adam represents a door through which the essence of the divine comes into existence. Mem represents water, or the spiritual essence. Water is the spiritual, represent the physical manifestation of the spiritual. Okay? Now, so when you look at the meaning of the word dam, Adama, it talks about sap or juice. Aleph is divine essence. So the Adam is the door through which the divine essence flows into everything else. Why? Because the Aleph allows the essence of the Father to flow into all creation, right?
Yeah.
Thus bringing about Elohim. Elohim's essence flows through the thing that Elohim created, which is what? The Adam. Am I making sense? Now, what happens is when it flows through the Adam, because there is a perceived separation here in terms of the light and the earth being separated, or the light and the darkness being separated, right? Because there is a perception of that separation that allows that perception to be in the Adam. Because that same perception is in Elohim. That's where it came from, right?
Yeah.
Now, because that perception is in the Adam, there is something else that happens. The Adam, and let's just do this in terms that we can understand it. The Adam recognizes the feminine and masculine energy that causes it to be.
Okay.
The feminine energy is representative of the womb of creation. The masculine energy is representative of the seed of creation. Are you with me?
Yeah.
The Adam perceives in his mind that the seed is more prominent, and of course I'm simplifying it so you can see what the point I'm trying to make. The Adam perceives that the seed is more dominant than the actual womb that it enters. So there's a desire, or there's a concept that the energies are separate. When that is perceived, then the first thing that this entity says is what? for the cause of separation, for the purpose of separation, shall fire, ish, separate from ishah, which is the feminine fire. Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
For the cause, shall he separate from father, mother. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
For what cause? For the cause of the separation of Ish and Isha. For this reason. That's where the perceived separation came. That's where duality began to take shape, to begin to take form. Okay? And it proceeded until the Adam began to wrestle with the idea of the feminine, and when the feminine was perceived to be separate, the feminine began to toy with the idea of unrightness. And when the feminine began to do it, and keep in mind, this is not two people. This is you wrestling with a thought. Jacob wrestling with the ancient type thing.
Yes.
These are thoughts these are perceptions that are being wrestled with. And the perception of good and evil. The perception of right and unrightness. What is really right? And what is really unrightness? What is really darkness? And what is light for real? Are they not the same? Can they be the same? The tree of knowledge of good and evil, the experience of good and evil, yes, ma'am.
Do we have time at this point? That
Not
these thoughts
yet.
are wrestling?
Not yet.
And how can ripe and unripe even exist?
Because it exists perceptually, because of the separation of the light and the darkness. We are on our way to it. Keep in mind, this did not happen sequentially. All this happened in an instant. And where time comes in, nobody's really sure.
It's hard to even grasp those concepts because ripeness or maturity involve time. I don't understand how you can get around that.
But it doesn't. It doesn't. In your mind, you can see thoughts and concepts without boundaries. There's not a wall between when you're debating in you, right? What's good and what's evil, right? When you're doing that, there are no walls between them. The only reason that we see that as time is because we live in time. But if, let's say in an instant, every thought that you ever had just flows through your mind in an instant, right? So where's the time between the thought of shooting somebody, not shooting them, of smacking somebody, not smacking them, of robbing somebody, not robbing them? There is no time in between those thoughts if all of it goes through your mind in an instant. It's very difficult. Very difficult. Because right now, what we are dealing with is something that exists before time came into existence. In terms of measuring days. Because time, if time actually exists right now, then why is it that depending on where you are, what we call time slows down or doesn't exist at all? If you get, what's that huge pyramid?
And depending on if you're moving as well.
Yeah.
See, I understand all that. I'm still struggling with the concept of
Okay.
something being in existence at that point that is not mature.
It's not in
I'm like,
existence.
I can't wrap my mind around that.
Okay, for purposes of us getting to the Elohim part, let's just leave it at that. That is time for you, okay? And I'm not trying to be facetious at all. It doesn't matter how you have to see it, as long as you get to the concept of who you are. It doesn't matter to me. Because the day will come when either I have a better way of explaining it or you have a better way of seeing it. And that's what's important. Because right now, I don't know how to explain that to you. I don't. And I'm not going to make it up as I go, because you're not going to accept that anyway. Of that, I'm glad. But go
I
ahead.
was trying to say, I think, to me, then, the concept of time is a construct from man. Once the question was posed, any kind of question is posed, why? Anything that establishes separation and distinction. So even the whole concept of maturity, as we understand it, is linear. You
So I
start
think
here,
it's
you go there.
always time is just an attempt to measure.
Well, but you gotta, I'm interested to go back to why we asked the question that then created the construct that gave us a frame with which we could analyze, right? This is why I'm intrigued with, when you get into theoretical physics, as poorly as I understand it, and you get to Einstein saying things like, as he aged, he felt the softness between the distinction of things, and that gave him comfort. In other words, all those hard lines, he started to feel, perceive, didn't really exist except for some defined purpose, but in reality, they weren't really there, right? And what I find interesting about this, to me, is this is mathematics.
It really is.
Yeah, 'cause
And this is why, if you can do this with the letters, why math can take you so much farther than vocabulary,
Yeah.
right?
Well, because
Anyway.
everything is determined by mathematics. I mean, even when you get into the gematria, it's more definitive in terms of understanding than other letters. It adds so much more to the letters when you start getting into the gematria of it all. And I'm trying to keep it in basically simple terms, so that, because see, remember what the objective is. I say that ye are gods. That's the objective. Now, let's back up a moment, okay? Let's back up a moment. When we talk about Elohim, right? Keep in mind. Is that the way you spell it?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay.
They
Plural.
can't see it anyway.
Yeah. Okay. See. Okay. It's, Elohim is plural.
Uh-huh.
So when we talk about Elohim, we are talking about the plurality. Gods. No one sits down and actually talks about why is Elohim plural. That is always avoided. Always. If there is not a plurality with Elohim, there cannot be a plurality with the atom. Because keep in mind, its image that he's created in, is it not? Mm-hmm. So the plurality manifests itself. When it talks about the olive projecting itself, it's talking about plurality. It's talking about more than one God. God is talking about creator. Elohim is plural. Now, that is the reason when the essence of Elohim is projected in Bet, which is the womb of creation beginning, right? Mm-hmm. What comes out? Multiple letters, multiple energies. And they're different in the way they are, not different, but they manifest different things. Now, let's get back down here to the atom. Okay.
But
Somebody was contemplating
Well,
rightness and
there's a
unrightness.
I know
I
you
remember
are.
that.
The feminine ones.
isn't it something, but when you talk about multiple energies, aren't you talking about something that's like the, what's it, we used to, you do math when you were a kid, you had the exclamation point at the end, all the permutations of,
Yeah.
if you rearrange all the numbers, you know, how many times you blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But it's just rearranging the same essential energy.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's the tree, that's the tree.
Tree,
down there.
that's it.
It manifests.
The attributes.
And the fact that it takes so little, so to speak, of a change to manifest something different, which is what gives us the variety.
It's like changing
Yeah,
gene.
you don't lose
Well,
energy,
it's a nano,
it
so it's
changes.
just some, whatever you can
Right.
define as the minimum. Yeah.
It changes, but you don't lose it.
See, okay, yeah, it's not going any place. It's like saying that when Jesus said that I was before Abraham is, what he was actually saying is that Abraham is not dead. The breath of Abraham lives on. My grandmama is not dead. Her breath lives on because the essence of the being is what? Breath. And he breathed into the countenance, not face, not nostril, countenance. The essence of the man, of Adam, and he became a living soul. So the body is not what makes you live. It is the breath that causes the body to live. As we call it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
To me, that
Go ahead.
fundamental question is still what is life and what is death.
And I don't want to get in that.
No.
Not today.
I don't.
I'm having enough time struggling with this. Okay. Now, the idea of the question or the perception of ripe and unripeness, keep in mind where it comes. It says that the Elohim, it says that Elohim puts the Adam in a deep sleep, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In a deep sleep. When it talks about Elohim putting the Adam in a deep sleep, this is my question. Is it talking about the Elohim that came out of the womb of Beth? Or is it talking about the Elohim, which is the image of that which came out? Do you see what I'm asking?
Ask it again.
Okay, if this entity is created, which is called the atom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is created by, or brought into being by Yahweh Elohim, right?
Yeah.
Now, when the deep sleep is, when this entity goes into a deep sleep, is it brought on by the Elohim that created the entity or the Elohim that's within the entity? Now do you understand my question?
Yeah.
Doesn't make the answer.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. At least I know what you're asking, though.
Yeah.
Well, what the heck? To move ahead, the entity within.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Now,
but if they're not separate,
Well, if it's
then
plural,
why
it's
would
both.
you?
I'm listening.
Well, what is the sleep, first of all? To me,
Yeah.
That's my question.
I mean,
What's
it
that?
says Lord God caused the
The
deep,
deep sleep. So what is the sleep?
Isn't it another consciousness?
You look at that? Sure. What is the sleep?
Oh,
Is the sleep not a state of
Perception.
Don't we say that?
unaware of the,
Yes.
Well, but now even that science is telling us that.
it's a different consciousness?
Where's
That's what I'm thinking.
which is the reality? Which is the real reality?
So
Dream
is
state
it,
or the active awake state?
well, Clark said that she thought when she was, what, 6 years old, that when she was awakened in the morning, that she was actually being put to sleep. But when she was in the bed, when we called sleep, that she was actually awake. But she never talked about it because she felt like she did, people think she needed committed. But that's where the reality is.
Yeah.
So is this deep sleep, Mr. Audrey, a different consciousness that's brought on by Yahweh and Elohim? You see? Is it a different consciousness?
Do you want to use the word different?
Or a consciousness that's not the same?
Yeah.
Or could it be a consciousness that was available prior to the separation of the light and darkness, ripe and unripeness? Was there a consciousness of what's ripe and unripe brought on? Was there a consciousness of everything that had taken place prior to the atom being created? Is that the consciousness?
Well, what was the result
Is that
of the
deep
sleep?
And the result of the consciousness of that sleep is, and the woman was taken from the side, remember?
The separate, yeah.
So the perception,
There will have to be a division of two different types of energies to maybe, it seems like, to give the opportunity to experience itself or to connect. Because if you basically, how to say this? In order to experience a certain thing, there has to be a separation. So there are actually things that Elohim and Yahweh could not experience itself. So, for example, if we were not separate from one another and never experienced that, we could not connect back to one another either.
So the sleep would be it's
But
almost
your
like a type
question
of
was-
forgetting that's required
I'm
in order
past
for
the
that
first question.
experience to
Well,
happen.
your question was what's the deep sleep?
Yes,
right?
that's
To
my
me-
question.
To me, the sense of it is more of a profound unity. So it's a prior.
when you say prior, are we going back up here?
Yeah,
Well,
because
just for the sake of, but I'm stuck in linear kind of thinking too often.
And that we are.
Because the other thing that I was thinking about that it may throw you a little off how we perceive things. So Elohim left Yahweh, and then Elohim has earth and heaven, and Elohim can experience something as being right or unright. But at the same time, whatever Elohim experiences is always good to Yahweh. And the same thing for Adam.
I just
Adam
saw something.
can perceive something as being good and bad, and it can be good and bad for Adam. However, whether it's good or bad for Adam, it is still automatically good for Elohim. So it keeps on going as it is projected out. So that goes back to the concept of nothing bad can happen no matter what actually takes place. So you look at, I'm going to make it material, financial meltdown, or anything like that. It's always the quote unquote greater good is the only thing that can take place.
Look how far it has come from Ein Sof. Further get away from Ein Sof, the more the concept change.
What I'm thinking is, this emanation of Adam has been dealing with the earth consciousness because he's,
He's made from the dust of the earth.
well, and also he's focusing on, you know, the beasts and the birds and the naming and the blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So he's so dealing in this earth consciousness that now he comes back and it says, I don't know who's talking here, but obviously somebody's thinking it. But for Adam, there was not found helper suitable for him. So now, I think his consciousness is so full of this earth consciousness that he himself,
Has experienced separation.
and also in he himself in partnership with the Elohim puts himself into this sort of deep other state of consciousness to prepare himself for this duality that's going to happen.
Okay, I can see what you're saying, because if you look at it, after the animals come in between the woman, you know, him saying that, and the woman.
Yeah.
He said, and he saw no being, right?
Right.
Then all of a sudden the animals come into being. Then he began to go. Then he put into a deep sleep. So I can see the consciousness of darkness, unrightness, duality, etc. You know, whichever one helps you understand it better. I can see that being, you know, involved there.
I mean, it's almost like another shadow.
Yes.
I mean, that, if they're concepts at this point, I don't understand how you could separate male and female without hiding some awareness of the unity from them.
And that's the shadow.
That's the sleep.
The sleep,
Yeah,
yes.
the sleep.
Yes.
And I think the sleep is more of a shadowy consciousness than anything else.
Well, I mean,
It can't be sleep like we call sleep.
No.
It's not that kind of sleep. Because there's nothing to rest.
But don't you also
This is
think-
spiritual.
I mean, maybe I'm mixing Aristotle in here in the wrong way, but you go back to the man living in the cave, and the only reality he knows is the shadow on the wall.
Yeah.
It's not him, it's not separate from him, but it's not him.
Right.
It's a lesser form of
The
him.
shadow is not him, but the shadow wouldn't be without him.
It can't be disconnected, like
Right.
you said, but it also is a way to set up the next level of understanding. So I'm sitting here thinking, if you go backwards up this whole thing, then we're back to Ein Sof needing to establish a way for which he could better know himself or herself, itself, and the only way to do that is to separate things in this kind of form, but still have derivatives of things down to a reducing sort of level. Every level making the next level safe, you know what I mean, for division. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't, then you're back to chariots of fire, everything would burn up, right? Because the energies
See,
wouldn't be in balance.
If you do that, what happens is, going back,
Ugh.
you begin to come closer to understanding who you are. See, this
Knowing
is
who we
that's
are, this is, golly, I mean, and that's the overriding question, right? You look in the mirror, why am I here? What's this all about?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question being asked at the other end.
and I'm saying that this going back is actually going forward,
Right.
because you know Abraham was before us, so we're following that kind of pathway. This is what I'm saying. I'm not trying to deal with our purpose for being here. I'm not. I'm trying to deal with the 6th chapter of the 6th verse of the 82nd Psalm. I believe it is the 6th verse. I say that ye are gods. I say that ye are Elohim. The beginning in that first verse, it says, Elohim walked in the midst of his congregation. And then it goes on to talk about what man is doing, the human is doing, in terms of not taking care of the poor, not standing up for those who are treated unjustly. It's talking about the human judging unfairly. All of these things he's talking about, and then he says that I say that you are Elohim, but you will die like humans. That's what he says. And what I'm trying to get us to see is that the Creator is so emphatic about who we are until he states it explicitly in these verses, but we have ran from it in such a blasphemous manner until we feel like it is blasphemous for us to repeat what's in the scriptures. We actually feel like that. We would rather curse somebody out to get even with them, or to make them feel what we think they made us feel, rather than to step back from it and say, I am better than that. That is not who I am. We are always confronted with these things that we consider bad. Not because they are bad, but we're confronted with them to push us to a place of looking in the mirror. And the mirror that we look into, whenever a person looks in the mirror, it is not to see themselves. People look in the mirror looking for blemishes to straighten out. That's why people look in the mirror. 99% of the time when people look in the mirror, they do not look in their eyes. They're looking in their face. They're looking for blemishes to straighten out. They're looking for something that's out of place. So when we look in a mirror spiritually, the same principle is involved. And the mirror that we look into every day of our lives is not only those things that flow through what we call our mind, but it's also those people with whom we come in contact. And the things that we consider bad are the things that we need to deal with, Richard.
This is too much going on. I can't.
Okay. Now, let me move, excuse me, down to Adam. I mean, beyond this. So now we see that the Adam is the entity, the spiritual being through which the divine essence flows. And when Audrey was talking about the deep sleep being a state of consciousness that is more relative to the earthly consciousness because of what transpires in between that. And because of that consciousness, that's when that's when the separation comes into play. After that. And that's when the statement is made after the separation, for this cause shall a man leave father, mother, and cleave to. Now, I made a terrible miscalculation where it didn't even come to my mind. One of the things that I really need to do is look at the Hebrew for father, mother, because I'm thinking it's male, female. It's talking about the energy as opposed to what we call father, mother.
Yeah.
Now, if that's what the Adam was created, then we talked about how the discussion, the internal discussion, or God, it's difficult to get away from earthly terms. The contemplation, the spiritual contemplation of what's light and what's not light, and darkness. That's what brought all this about. That's what moved them from the garden. Got it? Mm-hmm. Now, this is the other thing. It says that the garden was east of Eden. Mm-hmm. Eden is Aleph, Dalet, Aleph, Nun. So it was east of the Aleph. It was in front of. East means to be in front of. Mm-hmm. It was in front of the essence of the divine essence. It was in front of the divine essence. And it was a door that could lead back to the origin, the place of origin. But if you look at it, the further we get away from the Adam, we go through the garden experience, we go through the 3rd chapter in Genesis when it talks about the skin, right? Mm-hmm. We go through all of that. And each time that we go through something, we're getting further and further away in terms of what we term geographical location. And the further away we get from where we were created, the further away we get from that, the more ingrained separateness becomes. Yeah. The more definitive the lines between everything becomes.
If we're stuck in that linear concept of distance.
Yes.
As opposed to another manifestation, another aspect, another change in the formula, if you like. But it's the same formula. You know what I mean?
And that's what we are. We are stuck in that linear movement in our minds. When in actuality, we have convinced ourselves that we are more intelligent now than were the Hopis or the Mayans. We have convinced ourselves of that. So in doing so, we have developed religious concepts to fit whatever we determine right or wrong is. We have done that. We have brought ourselves to this place where we have created this God in our image, and this God has rulership over everything in the earth. This God that we have created. This God that we have created determines what the book means when it says different things. This God created theology that we have created. And because of that, we accept things like you can never be more than a human or a man or a woman. You know, we accept those terms when the scripture does not bear those terms out. We accept the term, the ideas the only thing that resurrection is about is a man, you know, getting up out of the grave in the physical sense. But resurrection is about a resurgence of beginning where we see that the breath that we are is real to us. So resurrection for Richard does not take place when mine does. It depends on where you are in terms of your acceptance of what the scripture says. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Come on, Richard, you about to burst.
Well, no, what was going through my mind was this thing that we've said about before in here, that people have their epiphany,
Yes.
their moment of connection, whatever you want to call it, and then instead of sitting down quietly and allowing that to really permeate and fully understand and grasp it, they go out and organize a church and call themselves a minister. And so they're stuck in that moment, but they're still vulnerable to all those other linear dichotomy, good, bad kind of ways of interpreting it. So that's what creates, that's what loses where the moment could take you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the reason that happens is because when they do that, Richard, the only thing that they have been exposed to is post-Constantine Christianity. The Christianity that came out of the Vatican. So what do? They call it another name, non-denominational, or word church, whatever. They term it something different. It's like taking this water and changing the name to Kool-Aid. It's not going to taste like Kool-Aid no matter how many I change the name of it. It's not going to be Kool-Aid simply because I want to call it that. Don't do the relative thing.
I can make you think.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
Let's keep it simple. So,
but that's why it gets complicated.
Yeah.
Because you can alter the reality of it.
and I'm saying the linear reality does not allow for that. The linear reality does not allow for me, if I see Christianity from the post-Constantine concept and don't allow myself to go beyond that, then the only thing that I'm going to believe is that yesterday a crucifixion took place and Sunday morning a resurrection going to take place. And that's supposed to constitute 3 days, and I don't care how you add it up, it does not come to 3 days. But people, millions of people have bought into that because they refuse to think for themselves, not because they can't, but because they have been convinced that whoever stands in that pulpit is the one who knows better when it comes to these types of things, when in reality, what has happened is the one in the pulpit has become the God in the pulpit. And 99% of what comes out of there is not in the book. So when you're thinking linearly like that, you don't allow yourself to go outside of what we call a bubble.
So how does it go? He was crucified on Friday?
Yes, he was crucified on Friday and resurrected Sunday morning. Early Sunday morning. You got to put that in there. So the idea of those things keeps us from buying into the whole concept of Elohim. So it's not about the Elohim that in me. That's not it at all. He does not say the Elohim that's in you. He said, I say that you are Elohim. I say that. Now, who is the I who's saying that? Yeah, the Elohim, from which we came, right? It is said, it is proven that people who are in a pursuit of a greater light, meaning spirituality, they have less complications with their bodies in terms of sickness.
Yes.
Far less. And I believe that when we began to accept what the scripture says, especially about, I say you're Elohim, but you're going to die like humans. When we began to accept that for what it is, then we will be able to speak to these bodies without even having to say a word. Rather than your body telling you how to feel, you would tell your body what to feel, what to experience. What am I saying to you? When your foot hurts, you say, I don't feel good. But you say, my foot hurt, right?
Yeah.
The eye who doesn't feel good is the spiritual. But who is the mind that the foot belongs to? When you say, my foot hurts, who is the mind? It's the spiritual entity that you are, is it not?
Yeah.
So when you say, every time you say, my foot hurt, what you're actually saying is, Elohim, or your body that Elohim is in hurts. That foot hurts. So if it was created by Elohim, and you believe that's who you are, how come you can't deal with that?
Because your foot hurts.
Because you're not a doctor, that's the answer.
You're distracted.
Children.
No, but you
I
can't.
have another example of that as well. I'm doing something else that's different. But when we say bless you when someone sneezes,
Yeah.
the origin of that was because it was thought that you were leaving your body, your spirit was leaving
That's
your
it.
body, and so they were saying bless you so that you don't become possessed by a demon. Well, hey, if you leaving your body, then what you worried about the body for? You are acknowledging that you are the spirit leaving.
But see, that's the
But
that's the confusion of it all. You know, we make these analogies, we say these
All
things,
the time.
but we do not think about what we are saying.
At one time we
But this
knew.
al-
Right.
But this
That's where it
also-
came from.
this is-
Back in.
This is the essence, isn't it, of Christian Science? That there's no need, your body was not made to be sick. Sickness is a result of a lack of self-knowledge, in a sense of separation from. Now maybe it's the way it's acted, the way it's carried out. It's not, if your foot hurts, your foot hurts. You can't pretend it doesn't hurt.
That's not what I'm saying.
If you're gonna stop it from hurting, you gotta be more profound than that.
That's it.
Right?
Yes.
I had that happen a couple of times. I had a really deep pain in my shoulder, and I don't know. I just relaxed, meditated or something. It just went away like that. I couldn't say, no, it doesn't hurt when it hurts. But I kind of had to release that, so to speak. All right? And then the trouble was.
See, the Bible tells you that. The Bible tells
I
you.
lost a moment. But anyway.
What does the Bible say? The Bible says that sickness and disease is a result of what? Sin. This is a result of entanglements. Is it the sickness and disease is a result of all those things that we get entangled with. So when you get disentangled, then that deals with the sickness and disease. It says that the word was sent to heal all sickness, didn't it?
Yeah.
Come on, y'all.
Yes.
It says that. So when it talks about the word, the purpose is to heal all sickness, then in order for it to heal the sickness, it has to do what? Disentangle you.
Yeah.
Bring clarity, bring light, bring understanding. So if that is the case, then we need to find out what we're entangled with. But we have created these things that we are entangled with. The seven cardinal sins. Yeah, we have created these things that we're entangled with, as opposed to looking at the reality of entanglement is the confusion that we endure based upon what the word really says. And we are self-perpetuators when it comes to that, because, and again, I said this last time and I will say it again. People do not believe in post-Constantine Christianity because they want to. They believe it because they were forced to. The Catholic Church with the Crusaders, they forced people to believe in Christianity. You believe or you die. So people began to accept it in order to preserve their lives. And then they taught their children so their children wouldn't be killed. And generations began to think that was right because their parents taught them. Mm-hmm. And to this day, we find it very difficult to walk away from those things that we were taught by our parents, even when we see that it was not clear as they thought it was. They meant well, but it wasn't clear as they thought it was. And in actuality, people are kept in this frame of mind of this post-Constantine Christianity that was forced upon mankind. We're kept in this frame of mind by the same way it got us there, fear. You're afraid that people are not going to like you anymore. You're afraid that they're going to call you a heathen. You're afraid that they're going to call you a blasphemer. You're afraid that they're going to tell you you're going to die and go to hell. We are afraid of a whole list of things. So it is fear. And fear is false evidence of pre and real. F-E-A-R. We have this false evidence that appears to be real to us because we have been taught that it's real. And as a result of that, we run away from who we know we really are. Right now, there is absolutely no reason other than our desire to hold on to what's safe. There's no reason for us, with what we are beginning to see and understand, to not reference ourselves, at least to ourselves, that I'm Elohim. Do you realize what you're saying when you say that? Do you realize what you're saying? When you reference yourself as Elohim, you are referencing yourself not only as one, yet many, but you're also referencing yourself as being divine essence. You are at the essence of the Father. That's why Jesus said, I and the Father are the same. He did not say, yeah, that's my daddy over there and here I am over here. He said, I and the Father are the same. Did he not?
Yeah.
He constantly said that.
Yeah.
He says, I say, I speak what I see my Father say. He did not say hear. He said see.
Right.
He said, I speak what I perceive my Father to say. That's what he's saying. Wherever I perceive my Father saying, that's what I say. So if the Father is saying that you are created in the image of Elohim, right? Mm-hmm. You're the shadow of Elohim. When are we going to stop being the shadow and become who we are? You can't disconnect from Elohim no matter how much you try. You can't do that.
Might really mess you up, but I went and started looking at mother and father and everything. Father is actually just a left and bet, and then mother is a left and mem.
Aleph and mem, yeah, I remember that now.
But then wife, because it seems like because Adam is a shadow of Elohim and created in his image. So Adam can create just as if Elohim created. And so the wife was actually created for Adam to turn his back to Elohim and created what he wanted to, which is actually false and an illusion, because the words that actually make a wife, which of course not saying anything as far as feminine or masculinity like as females or anything, but actually has to deal with, it has a left, so it's like your whole world is created, but then as in Shin and Chet. And Shin with this tooth is also corruption or falsehood, and then Shet being life. The life that you can transcend physical limitations. So it's almost if you can transcend physical limitations through a falsehood, which is by turning your back from a left, that, and them.
Okay.
Huh?
What he says is
Okay,
that,
somebody in this room, repeat for me what he said.
he said,
Not you.
oh, okay.
Well, come on.
You want to put in layman terms?
Well, he
I
said
just
not
said what?
you.
Oh, you put in layman terms?
Because most of what I got from that sounded like women are the source of.
No,
Well,
that's
let me-
why I made that very clear that I was not talking about females. It was
It's in
just
that energy itself.
yeah, because you got to think about it.
This is
He's
what
leaving his
Okay.
mother and father, so
Somebody
that's
tell me
like
what
he
he
is
said.
leaving a mother too. That
All right, somebody
This is
tell me
what-
what he said. If it's you, it's you. That's
This is
fine.
what he actually said. He said in a long journey,
Mhm.
what was said in the scripture when it says that the woman would be an enmity for the man. That's all he said. That they would resist each other. And what he said was that though through olive flows through Bet, and olive influence Bet and Mem. And Mem is representative, olive Mem is representative of the feminine energy. And olive Bet is representative of the masculine energy. And the enmity that's created between the two is designed to bring the two back together. What the woman actually does, she becomes a mirror for the shortcomings of the man. Because anything that corrupts a woman came from the man, because she's a receiver. When we talk about the feminine, and the only way that they can become one with the Father again is to reconcile what they consider their differences and become one with each other. When Jesus said, when Paul wrote that the Christ is the superior Adam, the second Adam, in what Corinthians is it? Yeah. When he writes that, he's saying that Jesus is the superior male-female, because Adam was created male-female, right?
Yeah.
So he's the superior one. So at some point, he reconciled with the masculine energy. When you look at the word Mary, it talks about rebellion. It talks about bitterness, and there's one other word. I can't remember what it is, but that seed has to bring the bitterness and rebellion of what mankind has become to a place of reconciliation. That's what we're in the process of doing. So it's not Audrey being corrupt and causing you to be corrupt. It's not talking about us in the physical sense. So we have to get beyond that and begin to see the spiritual essence of what the scripture is saying.
So is that wife is necessary to be there. That wife energy is necessary to be there.
Yeah.
Because you said, you
Yes,
said
it's
it's a
necessary.
mirror of the masculine. So
I don't
You-
get
you
the
don't-
back part. That's fine.
I'm looking at the energy.
it's very difficult to articulate what you can see a concept and find it difficult to articulate.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Yeah.
it. I see it,
As
but
long as you see it, that's what's important. It's very difficult to bring it, to verbalize what you see.
yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult.
So,
Uh-huh.
can you go back to that notion that I've felt life is a journey of self-discovery?
It is.
Discovery of self.
Discovery of
True
self.
What
True
is
self.
the true self?
Yeah, and it's not now. Don't get it twisted. Life is not the discovery whether you're gonna be a lawyer, or a doctor, or Indian
No.
chief. That's not what he's talking about. It's the discovery of true self. It's discovering who you really are.
So if you can hold that, then the challenges, then what comes to you in life, if you can accept without judgment, this is good for me, this is bad for me, but learn from, wow.
Yes, and that's
Did you see this movie Eat, Pray, Love?
Yes.
It's got that in it.
and that's what I'm saying. See, that's how I do my best to live this life. Is whatever comes before me is there for a divine purpose. It is never there to hurt me. It is never there to injure me in any way whatsoever. It is there to strengthen me. That's the reason for it to be there. And it's not the Machiavellian thing, what doesn't kill you will strengthen you. It's not it at all. Because none of it can kill you.
It goes back to it all being good, you just not being able to realize that it's
Not being able to see it.
Yeah.
Now,
The light is not good yet. You can't see it all.
here's another thing I quietly mostly held most of my life, which is needs to be debunked or whatever. The me that I perceive myself to be, the beginning of that journey, just to use the analogy, that's the me at the beginning of the journey, came through the family I came through, as opposed to you coming through the family you came through, as a way to continue to build on some aspect that family was.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm trying to say? So there is a connection. I suppose you could say there is a reason you were born in that family as opposed to another one.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
In America as opposed to in Yugoslavia.
I mean, and look at names.
Okay.
Look.
But where we get crazy is because then we apply all kinds of judgments on top of that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's where it gets bad.
It's and when you look at surnames that comes from cultures, they are seemingly chosen arbitrarily, but they're not. The surname is Richard, but the surname of the other 23 is Clark. So when you look at Clark, it comes from the English word cleric, from which we get clerical or clerk. And Richard speaks of royalty, strength, leadership. You see? So I don't doubt for a moment that the family that I was born into, or the seed that brought forth my birth, was done purposely. It was not arbitrarily done. It was done purposely. And had it not been that way, I would not be doing what I do, which means I wouldn't be who I am. So we can live in denial in denial if we choose to, and I don't mean the river in Egypt either. We can live in denial, but living in denial does not negate who you are. It does not negate it at all. It just makes your life more miserable.
Wow.
Resisting who you are makes it more miserable.
Well, and then it makes the journey your kids got to take a little tougher.
It most definitely does. Now, let me show you what I'm saying.
Make up for that loss.
The more you think that you are a material being, the more you buy into materialism. And the more you buy into materialism, the more frustrated you become. Look at the number of people right now who thought they had it made, but now they broke.
I was thinking also, the more you think you are a particular occupation, like you said, the lawyer, the more you're going to just not be happy because you're denying all the other aspects of yourself.
And that's why no matter how much money a man has, he's not necessarily happy. See, happy is actually the outer shell. Joy is the inner shell. And happy is something that the sages talk about coming from, without If whatever comes to you from without can also be denied you.
So what really is joy?
That lady that you mean married.
Internal joy.
Joy.
It may be, I don't know if I can articulate it so well, but it's just, it's an inner.
Inner beauty? Is it like beauty?
It's a core,
Balance.
what do you want to call it, sense of energy or something positive. You know,
I
there can be plenty of moments in my life when I'm not happy. But if I give myself the moment to sit down and be quiet, I can go back to that source which is joyful.
Well, you
this
said-
life is fantastic,
Well,
and then try to build out from that again. You know what I mean?
Richard, you're putting yourself in a box, though, and it doesn't exist. Because you said connect to, and it's not connect. Only thing you're doing is you sensing.
recognize it.
Yeah, you recognizing who you are.
See, joy, when it,
You don't see the box around.
I don't see it, but you see
no,
it.
I said bubble. No, I'm messing with you. When the Hebrews talk about joy,
Some days it's
they do
more-
illustrations more than definitions. Like a lamb leaping in the valley, in the meadows. That's the sense of joy. And I probably look at that word in relationship to the letters and draw the energy from that.
And it's
How
also
it's spelled.
it is a feeling of happiness, but not from anything outside of you. So it's nothing exterior to you that actually caused that. So you don't have to see something that caused that joy. The
So
root,
it's
of,
like
the root of it is
The world
you.
you give it to me, the world can't take it away.
It's like beauty
it's
and
what I'll
balance.
just say balance.
Yeah.
It's balance. It's just simple. And balance is not equality. It really isn't. Balance is whatever it takes to bring you to that place
Well, yeah, it's not 50.
where you need to be. Right.
That's 50-50 is crazy.
Yeah, 51.49.
Yeah, I
It's
want
still balanced. It adds up to 100.
It's 52.52.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, but anyway,
Because equality is I want to kill 1,000 people, you want to kill 0, so we're going to meet at 500. That's equality.
so anyway, the objective of Jesus, the sage, was what? To show those who followed him how to become aware of who they are. Everything that happened in his life, the 12 disciples, no different than the 12 tribes of Israel. Why do they talk about 12 tribes of Israel when it was actually 13?
Which was, what was the 13?
Levi was in the middle. The Levites. It was when Joseph, Manasseh and the other boy,
Manasseh and
Ephraim. Yeah.
they were both considered a half tribe.
Yeah. And the Levites were encamped in the middle. No different than Jesus with 12 and him being the Levite. But he was not born of the Levites. He was born of the tribe of Judah. But he represented the essence because his name was Yahweh. Yeshua, which is a combination of Jehovah and deliverance. That's what Yeshua is. And see, the thing that really freaks me out about that is this. His name means that, but his name is the same name as Joshua. The same name. And both of them did the same thing. Deliverance. Because deliverance was not considered done until Israel went into Canaan. So their names were the same. And even with when you look at the Jacob, right? Jacob name was changed, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To what?
Israel.
Israel, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The one who journeys after God, or the one who seeks to become as God. Out of the loins of Jacob, of Israel, because it came the 12 tribes, remember? So, all of these things are connected. And all of these things are there to paint a picture for us, not only as to who we are, but how to be expressive of who we are. And being expressive of who we are is not just talking about it. It's actually being it. You know, when we, when we were standing there this week, we were standing there in the parking lot. It was very, very cloudy at the Hotel in Mississippi, and the wind began to blow really, really hard. And Jaden says, Papa, is a tornado coming? I said, no. He said, we need to go because it's going to rain. I said, no, it's not. It's not going to happen. We got to unload this car. It's not going to happen. And he was fascinated that it didn't. And the wind just subsided, you know. So there are things that happen that we deal with that we don't have to put on a marquee in place. When you feel that you need to put it on a marquee, it becomes boastfulness. And the reason we boast is because of selfishness. I don't need to write about the exploits. That's not a need for me. Denise, I want to do this. I want to share something. You raise your hand. Great. We were standing in the. We went to the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, and when we stepped in the door, we walked into the store. The shop. That thing. Yes. Yeah. We walked in there, and I found myself in the center of it, having all these emotions, feeling like a huge surge of energy. And I realized that it was necessary to absorb it. But I had to leave because it brought back memories of some things that happened to me, you know, when I was involved in voter registration, that kind of thing. And I had to leave and pull myself, you know, together, so to speak, before I could go in there and really absorb it. And I realized that it was not coincidental that my being there was on the day of the assassination, you know, the anniversary of it. There was no coincidence, my being there. Because we had talked about going this week as opposed to last week, but Clark insisted we come last week, so that's where we were. So what I'm saying, I suppose, is that in order for the energies that have been created by the tinkering of politics, religion, and economics, in order for it to be stabilized or purified, however you need to understand it, someone has to recognize who they are and begin to take on that energy and allow it to flow in the manner that it was intended originally. And that's all Jesus did. Allowed it to flow in the manner that in which it was intended. And I say that's all he did, like, that's all. But that's a tall order. You know?
Getting out of your own way.
Yeah. I mean, think about it this way. When we talk about Jesus having said in the 14th chapter of John, around the 20th verse, if you believe as I believe, not only will you do what I do, but greater things than these you shall do. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We take that as, you know, we've been taught laying on the hands, you know, anointing with oil, raising the dead, blah, 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 blah. When in actuality, we have not really seen the essence of what he did until we really look at the way he did. You know?
Yeah.
when we really look into what he did, what the greatest thing that he ever did is becoming who he became in terms of recognition of himself, recognizing who he is. That's the greatest feat of all. If you can recognize who you are, then everything else is child's play. It just comes naturally. It's like the person who trains to be a baseball player. And when you are there on the field, you don't have to think about it. When the ball comes, I'm going to catch this ball, I'm going to hold my glove. You don't have to think about those things. It's just reflective action. And he says, when you believe, right? When you believe as I believe, when you trust as I trust. What is he talking about? Whatever you believe, you will manifest it. When you begin to manifest what I manifest, then not only will you be what I am, but you shall be greater than what I am. Can you see the picture here?
Yes.
This is what he's saying. But we take everything literally because that's what we have been taught, when that's not it at all. And the most damning part of it is this. We don't take it literally from the original language. We take it literally from the translated language, which is English, and the worst language for understanding on the face of the earth. And let me end by saying this. It is diametrically opposed to the Hebrew, because the Hebrew goes from right to left. The English goes from left to right. So they're opposing forces. And both of them have the same amount of letters. And one of them is the energy, and the other one pretends to be. The English pretends to be the most powerful thing it is. If you don't speak English, you don't do business.
Yeah.
It's a struggle, you know? So, having said all of that, my desire for today is that if you grasp anything whatsoever during today's journey, that it would be recognize who you are, not based on what someone tells you, but based on what the book says. Based on what the book says. Because if we do not believe that the concepts of the book, if we don't believe that they are real, then we need to put the book in the trash can and go about our business. Eat, drink, and be happy. And be merry. M-E-R-R, not M-A-R. That's what we need to do. You had a question? Oh, okay. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. Go ahead.
So when you were talking about Jesus there, you were saying that he became our example of putting back together the Aleph Mem and the Aleph Bet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that he could then become the essence of the Aleph.
Yeah. Let me show you something. It says that his name shall be called what? Emmanuel. But it says, but Emmanuel,
Yeah.
which means God is with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if his character is Emmanuel, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is Aleph, isn't it?
That's right.
Aleph.
Okay.
Emmanuel.
And if his holiness or his rabbinical, is that it, rabbinical? The rabbi stuff, came from the idea of having been,
Rabbinical?
yeah, that
One?
Yeah, that one. Then that was to Mary Magdalene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mary Magdalene is what? Mem.
Yeah.
Aleph Mem is what? That's the womb. That's the wife. So it was reconciling the feminine. The Shekinah is what? The Shekinah is the feminine presence of Elohim.
Mhm.
That's what the Shekinah. So this is all about, the thing that was thrown totally out of kilter is, and is continuously done that way, is the feminine. Because the feminine has always been demeaning. And it continues to this day.
And you know, if the moon gets any bigger, I don't know if the earth
I'm gonna pour
gonna be able to.
I saw that night.
It was so
gosh.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Last I started
So
next,
the feminine, but the
well, we're
The
still
feminine was
off.
still talking.
stargazing.
It was so beautiful.
But the whole concept, the reason women are being demeaned is a manifestation of the need to bring into balance the Shekinah, or allow the Shekinah to bring us into balance. What are you pointing at?
The 11 stuff we talked about.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's where we are.
Not that I wanna, and it could. The part I don't quite always get is the greater things than I. Unless the concept of you changes, and now it's almost a collective. I don't, you know what I'm saying?
I really won't delve into it right now, but I will do this. He says that not only will you form, make, create, or do what I am did, but greater things than the I am you shall do. Now what is the greater thing? What is the greater thing? What do you think it is? I don't know either.
That's my question.
If you look at what, in order to find out what the greater thing is, you have to see what he did, right?
Mhm.
So his efforts were to bring these men to a place of reconciliation in order to spread this word, reconciliation, reconcile them with themselves.
Mhm.
So to me, the greater thing would be to be so intense about what we do in this regard
Mhm.
until it becomes so overwhelming, until it becomes undeniable regardless of who you are or where you are in terms of enlightenment that's in the earth. So how do we do that? By putting it in the macro. As we change our response to who we are, or our definition, not definition, I don't like that word.
Concept of self.
Concept of self.
Understanding of self.
Yeah. When we begin to change the concept of self, that's when things will begin to change. Because what happened is, he started the road of changing concept of self, but it got corrupt. And the corruption came through the womb of another bet, which is Babylon. And it manifested itself as it blossomed into Catholicism. And out of the womb of Catholicism came all these other belief systems. So we have to permeate the atmosphere with an understanding, or at least a desire to understand the concept that brings us, that puts us before a mirror, that shows us not only what we have become, but also shows us how to be who we were created to be. Think about it this way. When we use the term human being, we are simply saying being human, right? Because we always say that, I'm only human. Don't we?
Mhm.
Why do we say only human? It must be something in us that
Because we deny
that recognizes you really more than that. So if you are being human, then that also means that you don't have to be. If you're being stupid, you can stop being stupid. So if you can stop being stupid, you can stop being human. And when you stop being human, you become what? Spiritual, which is Elohim, isn't it?
Yes.
You in pain?
I'm thinking about something.
Oh, it hurts you that bad yet?
You only
Okay.
get
That's okay. That's all right.
No.
Okay. Yeah, keep it to yourself. Okay.
I got a curious question.
Go ahead.
What Hebrew letters spell the word human?
I don't know. If I'm not. Adam? I think it's Adam. I think it is. Go to 82nd Psalm. Look in the 6th verse and click on human. It shows.
Is this a website that's the source of all knowledge? What is this?
blueletterbible.org.
Okay.
Man, I like the touch because what it does, it highlights the words that's in the scriptures. And it doesn't highlight the ones that are not there. And it helps you to see more clearly what's actually being said. I got that one on my phone. But I've been thinking about stuff and I've actually pulled over and pulled it up. Because I couldn't function beyond what I... You know how you get something stuck in your car, you just got to find out?
You can't wait.
Yeah.
That one just uses men.
Okay. What does it say?
It's just Adam.
Adam. Okay, that's it.
It doesn't use human.
It uses man, but it's the Adam, right?
Because I tried to search
Now
the entire Bible.
listen to what he says. Listen to what he says. It says that, but you would die as Adam, doesn't it? Huh? Is he saying that you would die as Adam, not realizing that you're breath? Because he became a living soul when the breath was blown, right? Remember? So is he saying that? It has to be. The other thing is this. The breath being blown, breathed into the face, it got to be something different than what we think. Because how small would God have to be to blow breath in somebody the size of me? So there has to be a metaphor for something else. How small would God have to be walking through the garden in the cool of the evening? So it has to be a metaphor for something else. And for us to begin to get into those metaphors, we'll be here for 2 or 3 more hours. So. But this is endless. It really is. My endless love. That's what this is.
You think about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Just, you gonna sing it a little bit for us?
Did I intimate that I was? Okay.
Don't get cute.
You can stop being cute. Okay, I'm done. Okay, bye online camera people and telephone people.